Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. Greetings, blessings, and good fortune. This is the Bitcoin Otter. We have a great show for you tonight. We're on KCPY, the city, out of McAllen, Texas, 97.7 FM. We're broadcasting live from the McAllen Creative Incubator here on Main Street in McAllen, downtown McAllen. It's the old library. You might know the building. Anyway, we have a great show for you tonight. We have a guest in the newly revamped studio. Her name is Ms. Lydia Mount, and she is, well, I'll let you, Ms. Mount, I'll let you go ahead and tell everybody who you are.
Well, as he indicated, my name is Lydia Mount, and I am an attorney. I practice in the area of intellectual property law, so I help protect creatives and their work through the use of trademarks, copyrights, contracts, and also entity formations. So I'm here to answer questions and see what everybody might need to know about protecting the work that they create and making sure that they are credited and compensated for it.
Excellent. And we were talking before we went live, and Joe had mentioned that the main audience of KC, the city, basically, KCYP, the city, the main audience is creative people. There's bands, there's filmmakers, there are content creators of all stripes. And this is pretty much from what I gathered anyway, Ms. Mountain, what I gathered was this is the target audience you're looking for. These are the people that at some point or another may be leaving themselves vulnerable to theft, content theft.
Exactly. Those are the people who need services like I provide the most. So we have an amazing creative community here in South Texas, and all of their work should be protected. And what people don't realize is that by not following through with the legal protections that are available to them, their work is vulnerable, and so are their bank accounts. And so my work is to try to make sure that their work is protected, their brand is protected, and their money is protected.
Okay, so you mentioned bank accounts. That could get into some shady areas. So not only can someone steal your stuff, not only can they claim it as theirs, but you could be financially liable for things too.
Well, if somebody thinks that you're the person providing the product or service that they're providing, then yes, somebody could say, well, I purchased this product from you and it's faulty, and then you would have to work to defend yourself or pay an attorney to defend yourself against that claim.
Sure.
So it's best to protect the brand that you've worked really hard to create and build. And the way to do that is through protection from the intellectual property laws that are available to you and to everybody in the community.
Just in case we, because I'm not the pro here. Joe is the pro. We did a studio revamp. Okay, as you can tell, this looks pretty 70s coffee house kind of thing, right? I like it. Yeah,
like it.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's a good vibe.
So before I forget, because I'm not the pro, could you give us some contact information? Your website, perhaps your phone number, all that good stuff.
Sure. So my website is www.lydia.law. That's www.lydia.law. And my phone number, 1-866-529-8462. 1-866-529-8462.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know, as you know, when I probably have told everyone on the show that has listened before and seen on Facebook that I started my business, the Bitcoin Otter business, probably about a year and a half ago. And I have a real cool little Bitcoin Otter, and I'll show you after the show. And I paid a friend of mine to create this for me. And he did it. Hey, do you want this? Do you want that? And then we came up with something that was really, he came up with it. I just gave him the idea. And I have yet to copyright that.
Well, so you bring up a very interesting part of the copyright laws. So if a person creates something, say you write a book or you write a song or you come up with a poem, the person who creates it creates a copyright at the moment that work is created. But in your situation, you didn't create it. You
Right.
hired somebody to do it. So does that person own the copyright or do you? Good question.
Good question.
Right?
Yes.
So this would fall under what is called work for hire. We would look to see if this was a work for hire situation. So normally, if a person is doing the work in the normal course and scope of their employment, then what they create belongs to their employer. So say you work at say you work at a publishing company, or you work, better yet, let's say you work at a photography studio, and you're taking pictures and you're doing different kinds of work with those photos after they've been taken. If you're an employee of the photo studio owns the work that you created. If in fact they hire you as an individual, someone hires you as an individual to create something, then you as an individual own that work unless the person has made arrangements for the rights to those images to be transferred to him or her. So it really just depends. So
Okay.
you have to look at the circumstances and see, was this person doing this work in the normal course and scope of their employment, or was an individual hired specifically to do this kind of work? And
Sure.
even then, there have to be very specific terms laid out. So let's say you hire a photographer. We have a lot of photographers here in the Rio Grande Valley, very talented people who produce amazing work. And I have found that many of them, sadly, do not use contracts when they are hired by individuals or by companies to take their photographs. This is very unfortunate because a contract is necessary in order to set boundaries and expectations. You want to know what you're expecting from the photographer, you as the consumer, but the photographer also wants to make sure that the customer knows what's expected of him or her. So the only way to do that is with a written contract that sets the expectations and sets boundaries and puts everybody on notice of what is in fact expected of them.
Right.
So what's also included in most professionally done photography contracts are terms with regard to the copyrights for the photographs. So is the photographer keeping all of the copyrights to himself or herself? Are they licensing part of those to the people who hired them to take the photograph? Or are they transferring all copyrights to the individual or company who purchased,
Right.
who purchased their, or who hired them for these photography services?
And
those need to be set clear because
Prior.
Exactly, in advance of the photos being taken, so that everybody knows who owns the photography and who owns the rights to the photography.
right,
So
right.
that's so we've got copyrights and we've got contracts all rolled up into one scenario there, and it's important for people to know what they're expecting and what's expected of them.
Can you share with me and the reason why I would like to copyright my my image is so that someone can't do whatever they want to do and put my image on it.
So that wouldn't be a copyright. That would be a trademark. So
Okay.
if you have a logo or a phrase
Exactly.
or a word that you would like to have registered, that wouldn't be with a copyright. That would be done through the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and it would either be a trademark or a service mark. So the difference between those two, a trademark is a logo or a word or phrase that you would use when you're selling goods or service, goods, excuse me. A service mark is what you would use when you're selling a service or you're providing
Okay.
a service. So, so two different things, and they could be a logo, they could be an image, or it could be a group of words. So, so for example, if I wanted to trademark my image here, I could apply for that trademark, and I could use that on whatever products I would like to sell. But I don't sell cups, so for me it would be a service mark,
Sure.
and I would use it on my letterhead so that it would indicate the service that I'm providing.
So it sounds like it's pretty complicated and would fall right into the mindset that maybe I ought to get somebody to look at this for me.
Well, a lot of people think that they might be able to handle the situation themselves, the application process. And the application process, while it isn't the most onerous thing in the world, it can become very onerous. And so it's better to hire somebody who's an intellectual property attorney to handle the application process. What I find sometimes is that people try to do the application process themselves, then they end up paying more money later to get an attorney to fix the problem that was created during the initial application process. So I tell people it might cost you some money to get the application on file properly with an attorney doing the work, but if you're not willing to invest in yourself, who is?
Good point. Good point. We were also, in case anyone, I'm just playing the role of the average person asking questions. So I would imagine that these questions would come to other people also. So the example of a rate or a fee schedule, came to my mind. And Ms. Mount said quite, correctly, it's done on a case by case basis. I can't expect that, just on a phone call, I could get a hard and set fee.
Right. No, it's much more complicated than that. So if somebody comes to me and says, I would like to have this trademarked, how much would it cost? Well, first of all, this might include an image plus wording, plus it might have very specific colors that they want to get trademarked, and so we need to talk about whether or not certain colors want to be included as part of the trademark. And before we even file the application, I have to do an actual search to see if there's anything else out there that's like it. And that's the important part. People think, well, but I want to file this, and I know it kind of looks like it says Starbucks, but I spelled Starbucks a little differently than they spell it.
Sure.
It's not the fact that something is exactly like what you want to trademark. It's the fact that if your trademark looks anything similar to anybody else's, that's going to be the problem. So if in the trademark world, it's called likelihood of confusion. If your mark, if there's a likelihood of confusion between your mark and somebody else's mark that's already registered, you're not going to be able to use it. And if you've already spent a bunch of money buying letterhead, business cards, putting a sign up on a building, uniforms for your employees, things of that nature, you've put the cart before the horse. You have to make sure that what you want to register is actually available to you. And just because you changed a letter or you changed a color or you made it a little bit different, that's not enough. It needs to actually be unique.
Okay.
It
Now,
needs to be unique.
Are there complications, or is it a deeper issue if, let's say, someone has a digital product? Maybe they created a song and they recorded it, be it with band members or be it electronically, or someone has, in the case we were talking about earlier, an image that is actual digital. They've created it digitally, perhaps, but yet they want to reproduce it on a poster and put it outside of an office space or something like that. Would trademarks, would that encompass all images, in digital and physical?
So if you have an image that's trademarked, you can use that image however you choose if you're the owner of that registration. So you can take that image and put it on your building, you can put it on a shirt, you can put it on a cup, if that image belongs to you, and it's only protected in the categories in which you have applied for protection. So let's say it's my logo, and I file for it, but I only file for protection in the areas of letterhead, business cards, and maybe promotional mugs. I don't have protection for my logo in other categories, say t-shirts, or let's say pens, promotional pens. They're called classes. You need to file for protection in each individual class in which you intend to use the mark.
Okay.
If you don't, you won't be permitted to claim protection in that area in the event somebody else starts to use it in a class in which it's not registered. So, for example, the word American. The first thing that usually comes to people's mind when you talk about a product or service that uses the word American is American Airlines, right? So, but there's also American that's used in American Standard, and they provide products. They provide bathtubs and toilets and sinks and things of that nature. Well, how is it that both of them have it registered? Well, because American Airlines has American trademarked and registered in a class that's completely different
Okay.
from American Standard.
Okay.
They're using the word in two completely different areas. And so that's how you can have protection for the same word or the same phrase or the same logo in different areas. So when you apply, you need to make sure you apply for every instance in which you wish to use that mark or that logo, because if you don't, you're leaving it open for somebody else to use it.
Wow. So it brings, your use of the word American brings up, I guess, for our area, an apropos name. Okay, Valley. I want to open up a plumbing shop, and you want to open up a hardware store. You want to be Valley Hardware. I want to be Valley Plumbing. Can we both use Valley?
Well, so that's a good question. And the reason that Valley is going to be complicated in this situation is because it's a geographical location. So say somebody wants to use the words South Texas or northeastern. Those are geographical locations, and what the United States Patent and Trademark Office will do is they will basically ignore those words. They will ignore the geographic location and look at the words that remain and determine if the words that remain are unique enough to warrant or to merit trademark registration.
Sure. I talk a lot about, on the show, obviously, we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about markets, we talk about banking, and we talk about those kind of things. And a lot of times, if someone like myself would try to warn somebody about something coming, we get labeled as, fear mongers or something like that.
Oh, gosh, no.
But what I'm thinking as the average guy, being new to your expertise, I would say that my imagination might be limited as to the things that could go wrong. Could you give us, without names, could you give us maybe, I don't want to use the word or the term horror story, because I don't want to scare people and make them think that, oh, wow, this is how we drum up business. No. But sometimes we who don't understand the business or don't understand the vulnerabilities we might be exposed to, we don't really know, hey, wait a minute, this can happen. This can happen to me, to my work, to my name, to my service, to what I created.
Well, so there are a lot of different high-end businesses who have very specific colors or styles that are trademarked by them. For example, Christian Louboutin. They're known, their shoes are known as red bottoms because the bottoms of their shoes are all a specific color red. And by the way, that specific color is actually a trademarked color. That's their particular color red.
Okay.
That red is owned by them. And there was another brand who was using red on their shoes as well, on the bottom of a specific pair of shoes that they were marketing. And this turned into a huge lawsuit over whether or not the second company was permitted to use this particular color of red, because Louboutin didn't want the public thinking that was their shoe,
Right.
Because it didn't look like a shoe that Christian Louboutin would have designed, but it had a red bottom. And so, how does that benefit Christian Louboutin? It wouldn't, because somebody else is selling a shoe that doesn't look like their style. But how does it benefit the other company? Well, people might think, well, those are Christian Louboutins, I'm going to go buy a pair of those. So the two identities become mixed, and that's not good for either brand. So that ended up being a very important case where it was sort of a mixed bag. The ruling was, yes, that's a Louboutin color, but this brand isn't using it the way Louboutin uses it. In fact, the entire shoe is red, not just the bottom. So,
Interesting.
So the company got away with using it, but simply because it wasn't solely used on the sole. See what I did there?
Yes. Good one.
So anyway, you can end up in very expensive litigation if you don't, in fact, have your products trademarked, or if you don't have the work that you create copyrighted. A lot of people don't know, but it's very important to make sure that photographers are credited and compensated for their work. There have been numerous instances where celebrities have shared a picture on Instagram of themselves that they liked, but it was taken by not somebody who was working for that celebrity. It was taken by somebody else. So a photographer, somebody who's a paparazzi, and the paparazzi took the photograph and posted it. Then the celebrity went and liked it and shared it on their own page, and now the celebrity's being sued because the photographer didn't get the credit that they deserved, or the compensation that they deserved, nor were they ever asked whether or not the celebrity could in fact share the photograph. So just because you are the subject of the photograph does not mean you are the owner of the photograph.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's all kinds of litigation that you can get into, and you can avoid it. You can avoid it by, one, not using somebody else's image,
right.
But two, if you're the creative, protect your work. Get your photos copyrighted. Make sure that everything is in your contract so that everybody knows what's expected of them. But also, trademark your brand. You work hard for your brand. You invest in yourself. You invest in your business. You come up with a name that's different, something that's unique, and it takes off. Protect it, but protect it from the beginning, because if you don't get it from the very start, somebody else is going to come out and take it. And with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, what matters is who filed first. So you might have been using it for a long time, but if somebody applied for it first, they might very well take priority. You could argue, hey, I've been using it a lot longer, but in order to argue that, you've now had to hire an attorney,
Right.
and
Right.
gotten a retainer paid or an advance fee paid, and now you're in litigation. So you can avoid those things if you work at it properly from the beginning. So that's where you need to talk to somebody who's a business law attorney like myself.
Right. So you can draw up contracts for
Yes.
whoever, hey, I want it to say this, 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 and this.
Yes.
And you can,
Yes.
you're
I
there
can
to do
draft
that.
contracts for creatives. I can even review a contract. Say somebody wants to hire a singer songwriter from the valley to create a jingle for them, and they say, well, I'll pay you this much, and here's a contract. Well, if somebody's approached, they can bring that contract to me, and I can review it and determine whether or not the contract's in their favor, or if it's fair, or if there are things that need to be addressed so
Sure.
that they can be credited and compensated, or if they're intending to give over all of the rights, that they're fairly compensated for transferring the entirety of their rights to
Okay.
the work.
So what got you into this line of work?
So, as a child, I saw a lot of my family members in business, and one of those people was my aunt, after whom I'm named, and her husband. They had a photography studio, and at the bottom of every photo, and my uncle, I don't know if y'all remember the name Terry. Terry Creative Photography. He took the pictures for almost every school district for the students for years. And so people would stand in line, all the kids would stand in line to get their pictures taken by my uncle. The bottom of every photograph, my aunt would write in gold ink, Terry, so that everybody would know. And that was where that started. So that was one of the very first things that got it in my head. Yeah, that's his name, that's his work. So you want that out there. And just over time, it became more and more of an interest for me. How do you let people know that it's yours? Aside from screaming it from the rooftop, well, you put your brand on it and you protect your brand. So that was one of the very first things that got me started, is recognizing that you can make sure people know that it's yours, and you can do it in a very classy way, like they did on their photographs. And so over time, my interest in helping creatives has grown more and more, and so that's my focus. Is
Interesting.
Helping people protect their work, their brand, and all of it
She would by hand.
by hand.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, they would do it on all the photos.
That had to be a process.
I'm sure over time it became something that a machine was able to do.
A store stamp, yeah.
But initially she would write it on the photographs and on wedding pictures. I used to work at their photo studio as a teenager, and especially in the summertime, I would work and I would help. I didn't write his name on them, but I would help with all the orders.
Right.
And so it went from her handwriting to, I'm sure it went to a machine who was able to do it because they did so many photos.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me to find out, and you use the term creative. It's used in to describe a person, right?
Yeah.
It's an adjective. So a creative person is a creative as a noun,
Yeah.
right? So I'm learning that tonight. Thank you. So a creative has an origin at sometimes they don't even know how it is they got into what they're doing. Those of us that find what we're doing enjoyable, and we're like, wow, why did I end up doing this in the first place? But you can tell us exactly where it was from. You knew right away exactly, hey, this is it, and I saw this, and I knew it meant something. Maybe not at first, depending on your age, right? But then after a while, you asked and you say, hey, what's that mean? Why do you do that? Oh, this is why we do it. This,
Exactly.
okay. So yeah, that's interesting that you know exactly where your interest in this subject came about. As again, Joe's the pro, but I'm remembering some of his advice. So as we're coming towards the end of our broadcast, I'd like to recap a little bit about what we talked about. So I introduced, and she introduced herself, Ms. Lydia Mount. She is again, you go ahead and give us, please, your contact information also.
Sure. I'm Lydia Mount. I am an intellectual property attorney in McAllen, Texas. And my phone number, 1-866-529-8462. My website, www.lydia.law.
And in McAllen, so it's office front.
I actually work virtually. I have a
Oh,
remote,
okay.
I have a remote office, and I can I can represent people in trademarks and copyrights anywhere in the country. So
Excellent.
Not just locally.
Excellent.
For trademarks and copyrights, it's anywhere in the country.
So for you creatives
That's right.
who aren't around here, we still have an opportunity to, at the very least, try to find out, hey, can you help me?
Exactly.
You know, this is my situation. This is what I'd like to do. This is how I'd like to protect myself and my business. Can I do it this way, that way, or give me some advice? I need some help.
Right, and if somebody calls and sets up an appointment with me, we have a discovery call. I call it a discovery call because it's where I discover what it is their needs
Exactly.
are. And at that point, I can reply afterwards with what I believe is the best way to move forward with next steps, and we can take it from there.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're going on about that 6 o'clock hour. And I don't know about you, but I found this very interesting. I, as a small business owner, right, the Bitcoin Otter business is mine, and I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you if you are interested in buying Bitcoin. Would you like to have somebody hold your hand instead of you going through it on your own and hopefully not getting, taken advantage of, hopefully not losing your coins? I can help you with that. So my website is bitcoinotter.com. So if you'd like to figure out how to do these things, please let me know. I'm available. Also at bitcoinotter.media@gmail.com. Get in touch with us if you're interested in the services we provide. And if you're a creative who does your own thing, well, you can look us up too. So thank you very much also to our Facebook Live, YouTube Live. And again, we are live on KCYP The City, 97.7 FM, McAllen, Texas. Rockin' on.